And here we go. What's up, guys? I'm Josh. I'm with Indie Film Lab here today with Ryan Muirhead and Shannon Tomasik, and we are here hanging out, just cutting up, and we're gonna have fun again. We haven't done this in a month, so sorry we've been away. Ryan has COVID. He is dying currently.
Don't have COVID. The test was negative.
I know, I'm joking. And Shannon's been like overseas somewhere hanging out, doing some cool stuff. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about her amazing work, and let's just jump into it. All right, Shannon, you're in the hot seat. Go.
Go.
What's up? Let's talk. What inspires you? How's your childhood? What's your religion? No, I'm
Don't
kidding.
say any of those.
I'm joking.
Just what's a short version of your bio? How do you describe the? I mean, I know some of your personal work's different from your job. So how do you describe your job, and how do you describe the work you're making for yourself?
Well, my job, I guess, would be shooting weddings, but I've been trying to kind of do less of that. I love the good weddings, and it's always really, satisfying and feels good to do the good ones, but you just never know what you're going to get. And it takes a lot of energy out of me to do them. So I've been trying to.
Uh-oh.
My personal work, I would describe as just kind of, it's really started as a means of doing something to get my mind off of things, and desperation kind of needing to do something other than just being in my head. And I started doing self-portraits as a way to kind of meditate and get myself into a better headspace, and make something out of a bad feeling, make something.
Now, for your wedding work, you're mostly digital, right?
Yeah.
And when you
All
started
digital.
doing the self-portraits, did you start doing those on film?
I started doing digital at first and then switched to film.
What made you switch mediums?
Um, well, I was gifted a film camera and started using that, and fell in love with how it looks and how it feels, and the process behind shooting film. That it's a lot more slow, and has just a different feeling even when shooting it. And then obviously the end results are very different. You can feel the image more than a digital photo.
I I feel like I have a lot of experience with thinking about that of the process, of film into digital when working with someone else. But did you notice a specific change when you were the artist and the subject of shooting film? Like, part of the reason I like film when I'm working with someone is I don't want to take the energy away from shooting, but that's because it's such a interpersonal exchange. When it's you doing everything, what are the process differences you noticed from shooting film versus digital?
I think digital just feels a bit more like firing off and just doing. It feels less intentional, even though it's mostly similar. I think there's a lot more room for mistakes and messing up and being able to save the image. And so film, you have to think a lot more and be more precise. And then also just the fact that you tend to shoot less with film than with digital. You can make a bunch of photos with digital, and a few of them can be great, but with film you try and make every photo count.
That's interesting to me that you say that you need to be more precise with the film, because one of the things I think is really interesting about your work is a ton of the photos ride this line of almost so underexposed, maybe they wouldn't have worked out. Do you feel that that level of like underexposure is really precise? Like, do you feel like you're working on the technicals to get the shots to that, like right on that dark line?
Yeah, now I do. In the beginning, it just started off as making mistakes and having things underexposed accidentally. But I love the look of that, and I like the grainier, darker kind of images. And so now I do try to intentionally underexpose them, but it is, a fine line.
I think people might actually be interested in that, like, technical aspect. Like, how are you getting it like right to the edge? Are you using exposure compensation and doing under, or are you just shooting in lower light than what you would for the same camera settings? Or how do you try to get to that place for yourself? Tell us so everyone can steal your style.
I usually just kind of go for like a stop underexposed. And also shooting like 800 speed film is a bit more grainy, and I'm really bad at the technical side of things. I don't know a good way to explain how I do things, because a lot of it is just kind of I'm not that precise with things.
And you're shooting Cinestill a lot, right?
Yeah.
How did you settle? Maybe we should look at some images while we talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. I love how it was. You were saying like, I was trying to make it perfect and then realized that it was perfect before. I love that so much, that, and you can tell in your work that it's just like looking through it. It's just, and every time I come across one of your images, I know it's yours before I ever look at the name of who it is. And that's kind of hard. I do that with there's only like a handful of artists that I know when I'm scrolling through Instagram whose it is. It's like yours, Ryan's, John Cahn's when he would post a lot. And like Ben Sasso is one of those too that I can just spot. I'm like, that's Ben's. And there's a handful of people, so that's huge.
Hold on, stay on this image. Who's controlling the images, you or her? I don't actually know that.
Me.
Oh, okay. This is one of my favorite ones. Like, and I think that's such a good example of something that's riding that line of like, if this was a little bit more underexposed, it might not have been a picture. Do you ever do like, when you know you're going for that look, do you ever do like different exposures to like see which works out, like 1 under, 2 under, 3 under, that kind of stuff? Or because now you're like consistently getting this look in a lot of images. Like, how would you set this up for you to get that kind of look?
Yeah, I do. If I'm trying to get a really underexposed image, I will do a few sometimes just to make sure that I get one that works, and do different exposures. But this one was actually very, very underexposed, more than what I would do now probably. And it just happened to work out. I don't know.
That's really cool. How did you, I mean, I feel like you're becoming almost synonymous, like Cinestill is like your official color palette of your work. Yeah. How did you settle on that being the right film for you?
I don't know. I think just shooting it, I loved the way that images would look when I shot on Cinestill. Everything, when I imagined a photo in my head looking a certain way, it was always accurate the way that Cinestill would capture it. So it just feels right.
I've seen you're starting to shoot a little bit more of the 50D as opposed to the 800T that's the main one. How do you work that into your work now that you're shooting a few more film stocks? How do you go about selecting what's the right one for you?
So the 50D I was using a bit more in my point and shoot camera, but that broke. So now I don't. I don't.
The little 28 millimeter ones we got from the film wholesale people.
Yeah. So that
you can have mine if you want. I don't use it. I'll ship it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
What camera is that? What camera are you using?
There's a film supply website that sells like wholesale film,
Okay.
and they sent me and Shannon both a just like plastic 28 millimeter point and shoot. And Shannon did some really cool stuff on it, and I haven't used mine. So she was a better
So it's not like a something
better promotion there.
Yeah.
Do you have any images from that camera?
Yes, but not like.
Oh, no worries.
I could find one.
So no, let's go to this like hand in the bathtub shot, because I'm sure that's a fascinating one for people interested in self-portraiture to go. I mean, unless you don't want to give away your secrets, but I mean, I think a lot of people that wanted to do self-portraiture would look at this and be like, okay, I really like this. How do you do this? Especially like on film and trying not to get cameras wet and the lighting and framing and focusing when it's just yourself. Like, you want to talk us through one of those?
Yeah. So there was obviously milk in the bathtub, which gives it that foggy look. And for this one, getting the focus has been like the hardest part of learning how to do self-portraits on film. For this one, I think I put, I don't know, I put something in the water that was just floating on top of the water, and I grabbed focus that way. And then to get the shot, I kind of just like leaned down in the water and tried to make my head out of the photo, and yeah, reached my hand up.
That's crazy.
So wait, where's the rest of your body in this? You're just like leaning out of a frame?
Yeah, just like awkwardly, like.
Oh, that's so
squeezing.
cool.
That doesn't even make sense. Like that's awesome.
And in any of your self-portraiture stuff, do you just like set it up yourself and have someone else take the photo?
No, I'm
Nice.
trying to think of an example of. Maybe I have before, but no, not usually.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that you're embracing the opposite of what you learn in like photo school. Like,
Yeah.
you know, oh, it's underexposed. Like it's just gone. It's like if you did that with some of these photos, it would kill the whole thing. Like if the ones that were underexposed were properly exposed, it would still be cool. But like, it's such a big part of it.
Yeah, I've noticed that too when I do make work that I properly expose. When I get it back, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have quite what I'm going for.
It's amazing.
I guess that's an interesting lab question too, from artist to like lab owner. Did you have to have any kind conversation with who was scanning your film? Because I mean, typically in a scenario where people are trying to, you know, make normal work, if you sent it, you know, some like that shot of you really underexposed next to the window, the lab might get that and be like, oh crap, we really got to try and fix this. You know, this was on the verge of ruined. How do you communicate when you're working with a lab and writing like right on the edge of technically incorrect exposures?
I don't. I mean, I haven't ever said anything.
It's just working out great.
I know that role with the like really underexposed photo, that whole role was pretty underexposed, and a lot of the images were on the edge of being not good and ruined. But I actually, for that one, I got 2 separate sets of scans back. I think maybe because it was so underexposed and messed up, they sent 2 different options.
And which did you end up using? Like what they tried to fix, or just how it looked anyway?
I don't really know which was which. Like, I don't know if one was I don't know what was done differently between the 2 sets, but there were a few photos that I liked from one and some that I liked from the other. So I used both of them.
Cool.
So what we kind of do is when it comes in the door and when it gets scanned, like if you're a first time customer and you don't have inspiration scans or anything like that, because what we normally do is say, hey, throw some inspiration scans our way in an email. so we know what you're going for. And if you don't, we just kind of make it the best we can. And then once we kind of get a feel for, if you use this more than once, we kind of get a feel for who you are, and we'll pair you up with, or you might have your own choice. You might pick Frontier, you might pick Naritsu. It just depends on the artist, but you just kind of make your way.
Are you using Frontier or Naritsu?
Frontier.
Yeah, because Anna used to scan your work, I'm sure.
Yeah. She scanned all of it.
Yeah, so Frontier. I mean, I would definitely say Frontier for your work, 100%.
Why is that? I'm curious. Why for underexposed, grainy blue stuff would you say Frontier?
Because the colors that you see are a big part of the Frontier's palette, and I mean, most of the colors that you're seeing really do well with the Frontier. I mean, you could do the same with the Naritsu. It's just the Naritsu is going to try to correct that a little bit more, and I think that's the beauty of it. Is the Frontier is kind of like, it does have its own, it has to make a frame by frame judgment on what the colors are going to be, but for definitely this vibe, 100%, I would say 100% Frontier for sure.
All right, I have another question. So a lot of your work has that, like, dusk twilight kind of light, like fading light, almost out of light, really low light. Like, I know you were just on that trip in Corsica, and I assume you were shooting like a lot of the day, not just at that certain time of day. When you're in like bright light or during the day and you still want to make your kind of work, what are you trying to do with that to get a look and a feel that's still going to resonate with you?
Really just trying to still underexpose it a little bit.
Do you feel that goes differently in different kinds of light? Like if you're shooting in direct, noon light, you're still just going for an underexposed and see what that looks like? Or are you seeking out, I don't even know what my question is, in the different kinds of light, how does just underexposing and seeing what it looks like goes? Do you have an example of any images that like were not at like a dusk twilight where you feel like you still got your look out of that? This turned into like a hit piece interview.
Man,
I'm just curious. I want to see some of, not that you need to show. I'm just curious, like during the day in Corsica where you had all this bright sun and you're like, well, I'm going to shoot and get my work out of it. I'm just curious how that goes for you.
I didn't shoot a ton during the day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I shot mostly in the evening and at dusk and then indoors. So yeah, I don't.
We should tell people to go to your Instagram right now. So if you guys are watching this and you have another tab up, just pull up Instagram and search Shannon, which is Tomasik, SHANNON Check that out while we're talking about this, because she has some images to share, but like just scrolling through, there's just get this vibe of what we're talking about, and not a lot of double exposure, but there's some double exposures, there's some motion blur that really work. Limited light, it's just so soft, and yeah, there's so many cool shots. It's like I want to look at all these individually. There's just so many. And the underexposure, what's really cool is it adds so much texture. There's like so much grain that shows up when it's underexposed. And even the ones that are like, oh my God, that one. I can't even see it. It's like, that one's so cool. And it's just like one lamp on you, but
just picture it.
Yeah, just picture it, guys. I don't know. I'll turn my laptop around so you can see it. How many images do you have? Do you have like 10 or so that we can look at, or how many did you?
Yeah, let's see. I'm sorry, we kind of cut you off. We should let you talk more about those.
I was going to say though, speaking of like shooting during the day, there were some photos that I made during the day in Corsica that I closed the windows, like closed the blinds and stuff to try and make it more dark and underexposed.
Cool.
So I have, just 2 more images.
So is this some kind of battery powered light? How do you got power out at the Lake Michigans?
Yeah, it's battery powered. And and that one was shot like right after the sun went down, and it was stormy, so you can see that it's very dark and yeah, gloomy.
What's your main camera setup?
I shoot with just a Canon AE1 with a 35 millimeter lens.
Nice.
I think that's actually something really interesting to talk about your work. Almost every other photographer I've met just goes gear crazy, like myself included. Like I cannot stop. I just added another member to the family, and I'm up to like, I don't know, 24 or 25 just film cameras. But you've stayed so consistently with like almost one lens and one camera, neither of which are expensive. Is that just part of your personality, or is that a conscious choice? Like, I feel like that's almost unique among people I've met.
So unique.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, I mean, the same aspect of like why I am not very technical with shooting, and I will, you know, mess up a lot of the time, and I don't really spend a lot of time on that. It's the same with my gear. I just don't like having another thing to have to think about, and it's not important to me. So this camera was the first one that I used, and it worked, and I just didn't have a reason to use something else.
I mean,
that's such
great.
a godsend.
Yeah.
save you so much headache.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. I mean, because like how many hours like on eBay or like KEH.com that I'm like, I want that. I want that. And in the end, honestly, it comes down to like, it doesn't, I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter. All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Too soon.
Too soon.
R.I.P. Chester.
We got a question? We got a question.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Nice.
Aaron Analog asked, how does Shannon pre-visualize her work? Does she sketch it? Does she use phone?
Good one.
Is there anything that
Can y'all hear that or?
It was a little echoey. Was
Okay.
it about pre-visualization?
Yeah. Did you say Aaron Analog? Aaron Analog was asking, how do you pre-visualize your work? Do you sketch it? Do you shoot like a digital shot before? Like, how do you kind of get into that?
Yeah, I don't sketch it. I love how people do that sometimes, but I don't have that ability to make work in that way. I usually don't really pre-visualize shots. Sometimes I'll have an idea, but not really. A lot of the time I just kind of just do it. I don't know. I just in the moment do something. I will sometimes shoot digital to see what it looks like and make sure that like my pose is how I want it to look and everything. But I also sometimes will just literally set my camera up and hit the shutter with the self timer and not even know what I'm going to do yet, and just like in the moment do something.
That's cool. That's very. Are any of these like super thought out where you're like you had an idea when you're driving home or when you're in the shower like daydreaming? I mean, that's where I come up with my best ideas, in the shower, because my kids aren't usually talking to me and I can really think. So it's like, do you just are like, I gotta do that? It's just pop in your head, or are you more like set up the camera and make it happen? Either, both,
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, basically just set it up and think of it in the moment.
Well, it's cool that you just have like one camera with one lens that you just, I mean, I just like going back to that because ever since I got into photography, it's always like newer, better, faster, whatever. And then even with film, it's like, oh, like if I got this medium format camera, it's going to look like this. Or, if I have a Leica, I'm going to shoot like this. If I have an AE1, I'm going to shoot like this. And I've taken an AE1 on trips because there's some trips I go on with my kids. I don't want to bring my Leica because I'm a little more rough with it. Like I'll like throw it in a bag or whatever. And I'm not doing that with my Leica. And it's an AE1 with a 50 and they come out great. And I'm like, why do I even have this like expensive Leica? It's great. And then I picked the Leica up. I'm like, oh, that's why I have it. But
Shannon, do you feel like do you feel gear limited at all? Like you've thought of stuff you would want to try either lens or camera wise or format wise that you haven't done yet?
No, not
All right.
really.
Great.
No.
Have you shot medium format at all? Have you?
No.
Oh, I mean, I'm not pushing you to it. I just think it's kind of cool to at least. I think a Holga would be pretty sick. I think you would kill it with a Holga.
That's not a bad idea.
Because those are like, there's no technical anything to that camera. You put it in, and it's like,
I'm going to grab mine.
yeah, it's just plastic and it has a crazy lens and they're very inexpensive and it's 120. I don't know. I'm not. We're like, no, you got to have more gear, Shannon. What are you doing? You have one camera. Here's some more ideas for you. No. Yeah. I like how Brian's like, let's go get it. I was saying we're like peer pressuring her into
Actually,
like,
I have a pretty rad one because I have the Holga that Jack White designed.
oh, wow. That's cool.
It is pretty neato.
Does it make better photos?
No.
Oh,
But look, it's very white stripesy.
that's legit, actually.
Nice.
That's pretty legit.
All right. We'll put together Shannon a care package of stuff she needs to borrow.
But it's plastic. It's like everything's so like not even professional, but there's some really cool stuff that comes out of that. So if you have a bunch of 120 film laying around that you want to use up, that's the camera to do it with for you. But anyway, no, your stuff is so cool. Like, I know I keep saying that, but like when I'm scrolling on Instagram, it's like, oh, Shannon's work, I can see it.
What makes it your work to you? What are the definitive characteristics that make the shots a success for you as opposed to work you're not as proud of or into?
I think just if it's something that feels like honest and accurate, I like beautiful shots, obviously, too, but it needs to have more than just being a beautiful shot. It has to have another aspect to it that feels like something that reflects me.
Do you have any of this kind of bleed into your wedding work? I know that's like completely different, but sometimes like, like for me, if I'm shooting something I really dig, like of my kids or whatever, I'll try to incorporate a little bit of that. Not like a lot of it, but just enough to where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of doing something kind of cool at a wedding. And I mean, is there any of that overflow into your wedding work? Just like even a little bit?
I mean, I hope so.
Right. I just don't see much of your wedding work. That's why I haven't seen much.
No, I don't share.
Yeah.
I don't share it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't see any of your wedding work. I don't know anything about it. But
what do you want it to be in the future? Do you want to do books or gallery shows, or what do you want to do with the personal work?
Yeah, both of that. I've been working on a book for a while now, but I'm just too, I don't know. I always feel like I'm going to have more work that I could add to it and make it better. And I think that I need to just finish it and realize that it's going to be a never ending thing if I keep wanting to wait for new stuff to add to it.
Yeah, just volume 2, man. You'll be all.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't even know where you begin to make a book. Do you just do it yourself? Or you get a publisher? Like, I don't know anything about that world. I have no idea how that even works.
No, me either. I have only like curated things at this point. I don't really know the next step yet.
Do you?
I don't either. So some of our listeners who are good at making books should educate all of us on how to do it.
Yeah, like what's the proper route? Do you because there's so many people that we see come through the lab that could totally have a book. I mean, a killer book. And you're one of those people for sure. And like, how do you even get started in that? How do you somebody needs to pop in here and tell us how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get a publisher and it's like, getting like a record label. You get someone that backs you and fronts the money and puts the books out and you sell them and make, a little bit on them or whatever. But you totally could do that. So yeah, when you were at a workshop, you were at a workshop and you were like a model at a workshop and it was so much fun. If we do another one, would you want to come back?
Yes.
I had such a good time. That was easy. She's like,
Me
no,
too.
actually had a
No.
worst time.
not
of my life.
really.
We both turn you down on the YouTube channel right now.
That's
No.
fine. That's
Not
fine.
interested.
That's cool.
That was great.
You can't just say that, Josh. Announce it right now. When's the next
No,
one? I'm
we got-
dying. I haven't seen any of my friends in 2 years. When is it?
we don't know. We got to figure it out. The dates that we got back from the place didn't really work out. It's gonna be too hot. So, what? Oh, we got another question. All right, what's up?
So Shannon mentioned earlier that self-portraits for her were kind of meditative. We had a question from Jamie Marie asking, why did she start taking self-portraits?
Okay, Jamie Marie wants to know, why did you start taking self-portraits?
For a few different reasons. I've always been drawn to art, literally my whole life, just as a way of expressing myself. But self-portraits have, for one, just because I'm always with myself, and so it's an easy subject to capture, and I don't have to worry about, finding someone else. But also, it's that process was better at being like a meditative thing, capturing myself and just being alone and going through all of that. And then also I struggled for a while and still do with my self, the way that I look, and not liking myself. And doing self portraits was a way. I always, when I photographed other people, I would think that everyone was just so beautiful and could appreciate people so easily when I photographed them, but I didn't feel that same way about myself. And doing self portraits actually made me able to appreciate myself a little bit more in a good way.
It's powerful. So just seeing yourself in these different shots that you come up with made you love yourself more. Is that kind of?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Has that ever gotten complicated though? Like getting a lot of praise for something when it's not making you feel better and having to balance the getting all this positive feedback when you don't feel great? Is that always a positive, or does that ever get conflicting?
It does. When people say that they connect with my work, it's kind of conflicting because it's mostly pretty dark and comes from a darker place, and so I feel, not happy about the fact that someone connects with that, because obviously it means that they feel similarly. But it also feels good. I think it always feels good to feel like you're not alone. And yeah.
Cool.
What's one of the photos that you've taken that I guess what was one of the photos that made you realize, like, when you look at it, you're like, oh, I don't hate myself, I love myself? Or is that still just a work in progress? Or is there one that stands out that you're like, oh my God?
No, I think it's just been a work in progress. And yeah, it's been a very slow thing over time. And still working on it, but there's not really one photo specifically. But I think also I tried shooting myself more without doing my hair, without doing any makeup, without getting ready, and just shooting myself as is. And that's been helpful too, to realize that I don't need to do all of that to feel good about myself.
Can you think of any other turning point, either images or situations in your work where something happened, or you got something back, or you did a shoot in a different way that gave you new perspective on what you were doing?
Well, I don't know. I did. So the image that I shared earlier of on the beach at night with the light, that one was inspired by I went to a tarot card reading, and she ended up not even using tarot cards. She just like did a reading on me and said that she could sense that there was a darkness in me that I wasn't okay with and that I was struggling with, and that I needed to she like gave the image of nighttime, and that when you go out at night you can't really see that well and everything's dark, but if you allow your eyes to adjust to the light, then you can see the stars and the galaxies and all of this beauty that wouldn't be capable to be seen without the darkness. And basically just showing me that I need to be okay with the darkness, and that there's still beauty to be found in that space. And yeah, not fighting it. And so after that reading, I made that image, kind of inspired by that. And since then, I've made a lot more work in that idea of being okay with the darkness and trying to find the beauty in it.
So, Jackie wants you to show the image again. That's a good point. We should have done that.
Yeah, sorry.
So this obviously has a pretty literal, like, light in the darkness element to it. How, when it's not so literal, how are you trying to interpret that and bring that into your work? I mean, this one's literally a light in the dark.
Right, yeah. I think just, I mean, having underexposed images and work that's just looks darker, literally, and more like emotionally. And then just trying to make something beautiful out of it.
The beautiful is the light part of it.
The image, the light, like, yeah.
Cool.
She's right though, is like as far as how our eyes see light, like from a just like when our dark room, when we first put it in, I have to go sit in there for like an hour and let my eyes literally adjust, and I just sit there and it'd just be the most boring thing. And then after a few minutes, like 30 minutes, I start to see little pinholes of light come through, and it's pretty amazing what your eyes can do in complete darkness. It's almost like it evolves to help you, like, I mean, if you ever been on a beach like that shot there, and it's like complete, I mean, she's absolutely right when you're there, and you captured it really well, and that tells a whole story of like, I've just never been a person that's like, I don't like myself. I've always had this, like, because I'm a 7 and I'm a Leo. I'm like, I love myself. I've never not liked myself. But the older I get, and the more I see like photos of me or videos of me or whatever, I can feel that. Like I mean, I don't know what you're going through, honestly, but I can feel that. I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably be a little more self-conscious than I actually am. Watching these videos back, I'm like, man, I could work on how I talk, how I interact with people. But that's so cool that you found a place to post your work and to get to, I mean, you found self-love through your own work. I mean, that's incredible. I don't think a lot of people that I know have done that.
I tried. It didn't work.
It's killer stuff, man. It's really, I would love to see this in a book, and I would love to see not only, although like I've said before, I don't read a lot, but knowing more about your work, I want to read about your work now. Like, after not just seeing the images, I want to know more about it now that you've said all this.
You know what I say you do, Josh? I say you throw a Long Live Film workshop and invite her to come speak about it. I'll be there.
That's a good idea. We should try that. Tell me more about that. Yeah. We just gotta work out the dates. That's the only thing, right? Like September is just so hot here, and it's miserable, and it's like rainy and sticky, and it's like not a great time to be in Alabama, honestly. So,
was it October last time?
Yeah, it was, and it was pretty. It was on the the verge of getting a little too cold, but it was great. Like the girl in the water, like I thought she was gonna die, and I was like, "You got to get out of the water." She's like, "Oh, but I'm modeling." I'm like, "Oh, you're shaking. You can't." You were cold that one day. I remember I had to like. I was like, "No,
you brought your
Shannon."
jacket out
I was like, "Shannon, get inside. Here's a jacket. Please, God, come inside." But that's a good time to. You want to be outside. So we just got to find the dates to do it. But that was so much fun. Do you have other images? Or is that the last one? You have some more?
I think I had one more. Yeah. So this one I made in a different way than how I normally make work. Ryan actually told me that if there's something in your life that you don't understand or that you have a problem with, to make work about it. And so this one was about a problem in my life that I didn't understand how to deal with it, and it was really bothering me, and I made photos about it, and they're some of my favorite photos, I think, just because it was made in that mindset and makes it more meaningful to me.
Is this one has like more of a warmer tone than a lot of the other ones? Is that an editing choice or a different location or just how it turned out or what?
I think it's just how it turned out.
Is it still shot at your house?
Yeah, but upstairs, so it's not in like my apartment. It's in the upstairs apartment.
Not in the room you normally shoot in?
Yeah.
And what was the thought process for setting these up?
Wait, sorry, say that again. It cut out.
Oh, I was just asking what your thought process for setting up a shot that is a little bit different than your other work went.
Man, it's not really any different. It's still the same process, and setting it up is. I have terrible answers to these questions because I really don't have like a very specific way that I do things. It's just kind of.
Did you work in any differently of a way while you were shooting this than you normally do?
A little, but not really. I just was focusing on the thing that I was making the work about, and I think I had music playing too. I don't always play music, but just trying to make it more intentional a bit.
What music?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Right. Party in the
Sorry.
USA is what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but like, so, I mean, a lot of things for me stem from childhood. I mean, a lot of, not just for me, but for everybody, stem from childhood. Like, when I meet you, I don't feel like this, you know, like, I'm just like, oh, it's just a cool person to be around, you know? It's like everyone puts up, not a front, that you put up a front, but like, you know, where does this stem from? Like, you know, when I look at your work, I don't think of, you know, self-love at all, or like, I mean, now that I know that, I can see it in a different light, but I'm an idiot, so I'm different than a lot of folks. But does it stem from somewhere that you can talk about or want to talk about, or is it, I mean, you don't have to. I just didn't know if because I grew up with a very, I grew up with a single mom for a long time, and my dad was like never around. But my dad, although he was never around or a drug addict, he was still like loved me. Like he would always like, you know, he'd always let me know that. And my mom was a very powerful, like strong woman. So she was, you know, she was always, I just had that rock, you know, and so. For me,
how do you feel that shows up in your work, Josh?
Oh, it doesn't at all. I don't think it does at all. Like
what?
I think it just gives me the confidence to talk to people, and you know, it gives me confidence to do it. my work doesn't really. I mean, my work's all about my curiosity of the world around me, but or I've been told, but I've never had such a like.
You've been told that's what your work's
Yeah,
about?
I didn't know that. I just do this. I just do the thing, and then this photographer
You
in
guys are
Auburn,
killing me.
he was like, "Yeah, you can tell that you're really curious about the world around you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that sounds good." No, but for you, it's like, I mean, I grew up with different circumstances, and I had this rock of a mom, and so I didn't know if it stems from like some childhood, and you don't have to talk about it. I'm just trying to figure out like it's just someone as cool as you, and as you're super cool and fun to be around, and I don't, it's for me, it's like, why? No, you're so cool. But it's not about my perspective. It's about your perspectives. I get that, but
Yeah, no, I'm okay to talk about it. I just wasn't sure what is okay to talk about on here.
On YouTube? What's their policy?
I don't know.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I actually don't know the answer to that.
I have no idea. We're just...
Jacky's alarm bells are going off right now. She's Googling how to get kicked off YouTube.
No, I don't know. I don't care if we do get kicked off. It doesn't matter. It's just we don't have to talk about it.
It's okay. No, I can talk about it, but is it okay?
Sure. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Do you have like an emergency feed cancel button where it just goes to like the squirrel chewing on the wire?
So okay, basically it was I had an experience when I was a child, maybe like 7 or so, where I had a sleepover at my cousin's house, a male cousin, and he molested me, and I ignored it for almost all of my life. I didn't even address it on my own. I didn't let myself think about it, and it wasn't until more recently that I actually allowed myself to think about it and process it, and told Kevin, my boyfriend. He was the first person that I told about it. And after I told him, all of a sudden it started bothering me so much more. It was as if, because I suppressed it for so long, it didn't bother me. And then as soon as I allowed myself to talk about it and think about it, it was something that I needed to do something to allow myself to get past it and, have some more peace with it. And I told my parents and my sister eventually too. And that felt better. It felt good to be able to actually talk about it and tell people. And then making photos was another step in that process of trying to have peace with it.
Right. Are you glad that you kind of told people, or you kind of wish you would have kept it?
No, I'm so happy that I finally was able to tell people. And yeah, I would love to eventually talk to my whole family about it. But that's another step.
How does the photo part of that catharsis work for you? Like, how's photography involved in that process of processing it?
I think it's just the same as like what I was saying earlier, that it's taking something ugly and making something beautiful out of it, something that I can control.
Yeah, a lot of comedians and things that we love so much of come from a dark place. I mean, some of my favorite art in general, whether it's stand-up comedy or photography. I mean, we wouldn't have all this beautiful work, if you didn't decide to like let it like kind of out and into the world. But it's amazing that photography is helping you cope with it. It's like you're seeing it again and coping with it. I mean,
how direct of a relationship do you feel that there was with the photography? Like, did any of the photographic experiences like noticeably change your willingness to like interact or talk about stuff?
Yeah, I think it did really help me a lot. I made the photos before I actually talked to my parents and sister about it. And it just, yeah, I don't know, it felt like another step that needed to be taken, of something that just addressing it and not hiding it and suppressing my feelings about it was helpful.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at your work and knowing that, and like a book would just, I mean, I don't know if that would help to write, about it or whatever. Yeah, I mean, oh man, it's sorry that happened, but I'm glad that you can talk about it and get it out, because bringing it to the light and that means so much now, like hearing it and seeing your work is like, wow. Because bringing all the negativity to the light is the only way to get it out.
Yeah.
Well, your work is beautiful, and we love having you as a client. We love seeing your work. It's so powerful, and even more now. And thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, that's when we did this, and the first time we set it up, I think Ryan couldn't do it, and I was like, I think Ryan has to be on this, because the level of what you guys are on the same like wavelength as far as your process goes. I can see a lot of, not similarities, but a lot of the same vibe, and just so glad to have you part of our indie family, honestly. When we set this whole company up, we didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know who we were going to attract. We literally could have been scanning weddings our whole life, but we got cool folks like you that we get to experience your work, and that's awesome. So thank you for that.
It is awesome. Thanks for sharing the work.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Sorry, I keep calling.
Well, I called him the other day, and I swear I was like, dude, you sound awful. Like you're dying.
I'm almost better.
I'm so glad. Well, cool. Any other questions that we have from anyone else? No more questions. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much. Is there any other images, or was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, everybody go check out her Instagram. Go follow her. Yeah, your Instagram's legit.
And Cinestil, sponsor her.
Yeah.
Send her some film.
Please,
Seriously.
send me films.
Send that 800 tizzle right over.
All right.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we do our long live film, you have to come back and speak. And like Ryan was saying, such a good idea. And model if you want to, but I think you have so much to say. And yeah, you have to come back. So I keep looking at my screen at like different, like there's just so much to your work. I just encourage everybody to go check you out on the gram. And yeah, so cool. Smash that subscribe button. Smash that like. I don't know what they say. I'm just joking.
Yeah, we don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you so much for your time. I know time is valuable, and thank you so much for sharing your work with us and your story. And can't wait to see you again in person to hang out.
Yeah, me either. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it for us today, and I guess we'll see you next Tuesday. Is next Tuesday or? I don't know what's going on anymore.
I guess that's it. And maybe we'll see you again.
I guess we'll see you next Tuesday unless something happens, because I have kids and we all have a crazy life. But thank y'all for coming in and watching and hanging out with us. And we'll see you next Tuesday. And long live film. See ya.
Awesome.